Was there a particular event or time you recognized that filmmaking was not just a hobby, but that it would be your life and your living?
I remember well being on set of the documentary film that we made years ago titled Dreamers and Gamblers, Spirit of the Pioneer Wildcatters. We were in an old knotty pine cabin out in the boonies in North Louisiana, and we had created a makeshift saloon as they had in the days of old in North Louisiana for the oil workers and wildcatters. And we had a set full of people, and I was in charge of using the bellows, which created smoke for the smoke scene in the bar. And I was down on the floor feeling like a kid playing in a sandbox, and I said, this is just too much fun. I've got to keep doing this somehow for the rest of my life. I feel like a kid again. I knew that at that point in time, no matter the headaches, no matter the problems with fundraising, this was in my blood and in my soul, and it was something I was going to keep doing forever.
Is it harder to get started or to keep going? What particular thing did you have to conquer to do either?
In my experience, the hardest part is to keep going. When you're excited about a new project and it's shiny and new, you feel like, oh, this is going to go, there's no obstacles, this is going to be the best film ever made, it's going to be easy, we're going to attract the best actors. Well, the reality is our funding fell through 3 times before we actually got the film made. It was extremely discouraging at the time, and I wondered, is this even worth my time and energy? And then very quickly I told myself, yes, it is. I am in love with this project, I'm passionate about it, and I will see through it getting made. And I knew then that there's going to always be obstacles. It's like being in the battlefield. You've got people that have your back, you have others' backs, and somehow together you figure out a way to make it happen. So after 3 times, we did get the funding, we cut the budget back, and we found a way to make the film get made. And to me, this is what it's all about, overcoming obstacles.
What advice would you give to someone who wanted to have a career creating film?
I would definitely tell them to go for it. Don't let anything stop you from fulfilling your dream. But at the same time, pragmatically, I think it's great to have a backup plan. I am a teacher, and that is my career, but I consider filmmaking my avocation. And as I've said before, it's something that's in my spirit, in my blood, and I will keep doing it till the day I die because I love it. And any money that I make off the film is just added benefit, but I don't have the pressure of feeling like I have to make a living from it, so it stays fun and fresh for me, and that's the way I want it to continue.
What was the most important lesson you had to learn that has had a positive effect on your film? How did that lesson happen?
I learned, as I've said before, I learned that we have to overcome obstacles and we have to keep plotting. Even if the most disastrous events happens, we know that there's another way that we can see the outcome, and we just plod forward and do that.
You are a collaborator. How have you discovered members of your team, and how do you keep the relationship with them strong?
Our team started building on the set of Skookum, The Hunt for Bigfoot. Most of these people I'd never worked with before. I did know of them and I researched carefully before I brought people on set. But by the end of the production, we were family. We were bonded. Being on a set is like compressed life. You know who has your back and you have theirs. And these are the people you want to work with forever. So it's so important to me to keep that going. We keep the bond going by the core team creates a film every year, whether it's a short film for the Louisiana Film Prize competition or a different kind of project for another purpose. We get together once a year and we strengthen those bonds, and we end up with a work product because of the collaboration that none of us could have ever achieved alone.
You are here at the Louisiana Film Channel's Movie of the Week. You are here because of your work and how you do it. What are personal attributes that make for a good filmmaker? And what do you do to foster them?
I never quit. Once I have my teeth sunk into a project, I don't let go until it's done. And also, I value the input of my collaborators, my team, and I feel like together we can create something that I could have never done alone. So I'm open to input, and I value that input.
When I wanted to devote my life to making movies, my first decision was New York or LA. How does where you live influence how and what you make? And how do you think Louisiana currently affects your work and process?
I am a Louisianan. I live in the state and I love the state. I could film every movie that I will ever make for the rest of my life in Louisiana and always come up with something unique and creative. Louisiana has an abundance of talent to draw from in creating films. It also has such diversity of culture and terrain. When we filmed Skookum the Hunt for Bigfoot, we filmed swamp scenes in North Louisiana that people are just astounded even exist. And I feel like that is part of the mystery and creativity of living in this very special state that allows for so many good things to come out of the films created here.
What makes a film great for you? Are there certain qualities that make a film be better for you?
Absolutely. I love films with characters that I can see go through a complete character arc of change. That invokes feelings for me in the audience, and I think that a good film can be great if the characters show strength in their character arcs. And also, I like the process of story, which to me is created by these good characters. I like characters that grab me by the jugular and don't let go. That characters that I know that stay with me forever. Not just the ones that I write, but the ones that I see in the cinema on film.
Are there common qualities in cinema today that you dislike? Is there something you try to subvert, avoid, or rebel against in your work?
I don't like unnecessary special effects because sometimes I see that they take away from the essence of story, or they mask the lack of essence in a story. And to me, the essence of story is the character and the story itself. And if the special effects take away from that, I walk out of the movie thinking, oh, those are great special effects, but I've got the emptiness of not experiencing a real story.
We're all here, presumably partially because we love cinema. How did your love for movies get sparked? And what can we as a community do to help others discover a similar pleasure?
My love for cinema began with my love of words and love of reading, love of story. And then I realized when sitting in a darkened theater with a group of people, watching a story that sparks all of my senses and the senses of those around me, hearing, speaking. You can almost smell because of the texture of the film. And I realized how powerful it was. That we can pick up a book and read the words, and it's powerful in its own way. And books afford a luxury in some ways that film doesn't in getting into the narrative. But the film is so concise of an experience that we walk away feeling that we've had a whole nother life experience. And if it's a good film, the characters and the story stay with us forever and change us in a small or large way as we all walk away from cinema.
Generally speaking, when we want to learn about a film, we talk to the director. But those that make films know how much they are really collaborations. What makes a fruitful collaboration? What do you do to enhance the collaborative process?
Again, I encourage everyone involved in the film to have input, and I think to make a meaningful film, every single person needs to feel that their input is valued. And the more their input is valued, the more they contribute. The more every single person on set contributes, the better the film.
It is said that there are only 6 stories, maybe 12. It's all been done before, and we have seen it all. What do you do to keep it fresh? Is there anything that you can do to subvert the process to keep it original?
I believe that though there may fundamentally be 6 storylines, there are as many characters as there are people in the world. And that is what makes a film unique. Each person with their own story taking their own path, which exponentially increases those 6 fundamental stories. We will never see the same story because we have different characters, we have different filmmakers, we have different directors of photography who capture the essence of that story in a different way. So we never think in terms of, oh, I've seen this all before, because it is also unique and different as each human being is from the other.
We get noticed because of our successes, but we create them on the back of our failures. We learn best from the experiences where it doesn't work, yet we still only discuss the successes, not the failure. What failures of your own have you been able to learn from? How did they change you and your process?
Well, I always think of the failure, quote, failure of the shark in the movie Jaws. Millions of dollars had been spent on the animatronics for the Jaws shark, and they got it out in production and it simply didn't work. So they had no time to create new animatronics, so they just decided to make the shark appear less, which in fact, that quote failure ended up being a success because they minimized the showing of the shark and greatly increased the tension in the story, greatly increasing the fear, using music and sound effects and characters' reactions to do so, and in essence probably greatly increased the effectiveness of the film through that quote failure. In my experience with Skookum, the Hunt for Bigfoot, we failed to create a shot list. We got out in the field and just used the script and had a script supervisor that we depended on. We didn't really have anyone doing the dailies properly, and so when we got in post-production it was chaotic, and also we didn't get as many shot angles and get as much coverage as we should have. So we ended up having to go back with no budget. We had to do 3 different sets of pickup shots. And that could have been prevented by actually having a shot list, storyboard, and catching those little things in the field that we had to do in post-production. And it slowed everything down, including the editing process and when the film was released, which was actually 3 years after it was produced in the field.
It all starts with a script. Maybe not, but when do you know a script is ready to shoot? What is your process of getting it there?
I think that scripts have to go through several drafts, and that anytime we try to accelerate that process too rapidly, it can mean that the script is not as effective as it needs to be for filming. So I think that it's important to have table reads with the actors, and so many things are caught during that time. You can have unofficial table reads which we've done with the producers and directors. We catch things at that time, looking at the structure of the film, making sure that the film is broken down into the right percentage in the 3 acts of the film. That helps keep films on pace based on the script. Now, with that said, I think in essence, to get the script as polished as possible with everything that I've just said before you go out into the field, but into the field in production, there's going to be changes, because you're going to think of brilliant things that can be done when you're in the film that you didn't think about during the writing of the script, the pencil to paper part of it. And when you're in the film with reality, and when you're in the field with reality, you can see that, oh, we can do this and do that to make it even better. So keeping open to that, but having a polished script, making it the best it can be before you get in the field.
Several directors have told me that most of directing is actually casting, regardless of whether that is true. Some actors have it, and sometimes they need something to make it pop. You spotted that it and captured it. What is it? And how do you find it?
I think knowing your story and knowing what kind of person you want to cast in that role prior to the casting is so important. And I think looking at reels that person has done, and also getting them to try out for the role, by whether it be through video or in person, is just essential in casting the right person. Also, you want that particular actor to be passionate about the role they're playing. It can be for a variety of different reasons, but it's important that they have that staying power, and they'll do anything that's needed to be done to make that character the character that they want to be. I remember when we were out filming Skookum, the Hunt for Bigfoot, and it was one of our last days of filming, and Diana Renee, who played the lead female role, ended up having to go into a pool of mud and straw, which simulated quicksand in the forest, and she did it when the temperature was right at 32 degrees. She had mud all over her, and she didn't even have time to take a proper shower before she had to catch the airplane back to Los Angeles. Now that is perfect casting. Diana had passion for the role. It showed in the movie, and she didn't mind freezing in a hole of mud for 2 hours while we shot that scene. So kudos to Diana. That's the kind of person you want in your film.
Is the film business fair? Why or why not? How do you make the apparatus work for you?
Well, life is not fair. So film business falls into that. And there are horror stories, and we all have horror stories about the film business, but we don't let those horror stories stop us. We step over them and learn from them and avoid confrontation with the same type of people in the future, we find a different way to get things done. So to refuse to be a part of the industry because it's not fair is like refusing to be part of life because life's not fair. We just find a way to make it as fair as possible to ourselves and to those that are part of our team.
Is it the filmmaker's responsibility to find and develop your audience? Do you feel that way?
Well, I think with independent filmmaking, if we want our films to be successful, which I think definitely should be a goal for all of us, we have investors many times that we have to be responsible to with our filmmaking and our marketing, which this is a part. But I think that to know our audience is essential to be able to market. Even if we have distribution, we need to be able to be in a position of helping that distributor market our products by the use of our social media. If our core film team is committed to the project, we're going to have them use their social media if they feel comfortable with that in helping to promote the film, which helps to promote themselves. That's important. And I think everything that we can do to enhance the success of the film only makes us successful as human beings and as filmmakers.
What role have film festivals played in your life so far? Why are they necessary? How do you get the most out of them?
I think film festivals are great because they help promote our project. They help get the word out. If we're able to be so lucky as to win awards, that is helpful for that particular film and for our future films. It establishes our credibility as filmmaking professionals, and it helps our work in the future. So I think film festivals are important, but I also think it is important to get beyond film festivals into distribution and not expect too much of film festivals. Not necessarily expect that we're going to, walk away with $1,000 check from a film festival that we get into, whether it's Sundance or any other festival. We need to be realistic about that possibility and just go into a film festival thinking this is a way to enhance our film, our credibility as filmmakers, and to get the word out about our project.
I'm a big believer in the importance of social media in many aspects of the film process. Are you on social media? And do you use it in your work? Why or why not?
Yes, I am on social media and I do use it in my work. I don't think that I have learned near as much as what I need to learn in the marketing aspect and the use of social media, but I do think it's important when we are promoting our project to not be blatant about that promotion with people. Oh, go look at my film. Oh, here's my link. I think it's important to incorporate on social media our film in part of the context of whatever it is that we're responding to or posting for. I don't like direct in-the-face, slap-in-the-face marketing from other people, and I don't want to do that for my projects. I want it to be part of a bigger picture and a bigger conversation as far as promotion.
When I got started, there were two screens, the movie screen and the television screen. Now, there are also computers, tablets, and phones. Screens are everywhere. The home, the bus stop, the elevator, the taxi cab. As a creator, how does this affect the stories you tell? And how do you tell them?
I think as a creator of both narrative, length independent films and short films, I am excited by this because I think that the smaller screens are more amenable to short films because our audiences, particularly with the smaller screens, tend to have shorter attention spans. So I think that shorter films are up and coming in their marketability, whereas In the past, short films were used as more of a calling card for filmmakers who wanted to inspire for feature-length films, and now I think that's changing because of the smaller screens, and I'm really excited about the possibilities here for actually marketing short films.
If there is one or more thing you think would make the film industry better, what would it be? One or more things.
Actually, I think those one or more things are happening right now as we speak, because for one thing, technology has become much more accessible to all aspiring filmmakers. We have, our cameras have become so much more affordable. Sound equipment, editing equipment, everything we need in the film we have access to. And I think this lends itself to opening wide up the world for independent filmmakers. And I also think the advent of streaming venues, which are everywhere now, it's almost dizzying how fast they're multiplying. Well, those streaming venues need content. So I think that our content, whatever it is that we produce, is going to have much more opportunity to be picked up and acquired by these venues.
Do filmmakers have any responsibility to culture? Do you feel that being a creative person requires that you give back or tell a particular story? Why or why not?
I can't speak for others, but I know for myself, I see, and this is quite unconsciously, but as I reflect back, most of my film projects have a social cause underneath. And for me, that social cause has been justice for whatever reason. And I think that comes from deep within each filmmaker. And like I said, I can't speak for everyone, only myself, but I think there is a certain amount of responsibility to create projects that have a meaning that can make the world better, just by viewing those. Now, with that said, I don't particularly appreciate being directly preached to in films. That will turn me off so fast. So in my films, everything has to be subtext. All the learning, all the social causes pretty much have to be in subtext for me to feel comfortable putting it out there. We have to be true to story, and whatever we can incorporate that, or what comes out of that story organically that can be a benefit to the world, that's just all the better.
What inspired this story or film?
For Skookum, The Hunt for Bigfoot, I was inspired to film a horror story because just from the business aspect, horror films have a greater worldwide marketability. And given the fact that I really don't like or appreciate slasher films, I met a man who had a good old boy from North Louisiana, and he had experience out in the woods when he was hunting with encountering 2 Bigfoot. And when I listened to his story and I heard his voice shake and I saw the fear in his eyes, I knew that that experience was real for him. And so that coincided with my desire to film a horror story and make it more of a docudrama type of film. And I remembered how much the movie The Legend of Boggy Creek affected me. And it was, again, a docudrama. And that film was set 30 miles close to my house. And I figured, well, there haven't been many Bigfoot type movies made in Louisiana, yet there's been a lot of alleged sightings. So I thought, well, I can mash all this together and we can create a modern version of The Legend of Boggy Creek using a real life person's experience to base that movie on. So that was the motivation for Skookum, the Hunt for Bigfoot.
Where did you find your cast?
I wanted to use a lot of local people for the authenticity of local flavor, real southern accents, and we got most of local people involved, including crew, including director of photography and others who came on board as production assistants. And we brought in people from Los Angeles for the main roles. And the person who was actually an inspiration for this movie that I talked about earlier, Mike Woolley, we actually brought him in to sort of play his own role, which I thought was very, very effective too.
Any unique issues encountered, and if so, your creative solution?
During the filming of Skookum, the Hunt for Bigfoot, we ended up having to find a new cinematographer during the middle of the shoot. And we were filming with a red camera, which belonged to the first cinematographer. So it was a unique situation, and we had to find a DP with a red camera. And we found that in a local person, Robert Foster, who came on and did a fantastic job. We couldn't have finished the film properly without him.
Anyone you would like to acknowledge or thank from this project?
So many people. I would like to acknowledge my co-writer for the script, Evelyn Morgan, and the director, Jack Schuyler, who was just incredibly awesome. And I would also like to thank Christy Williams-Hale and Nancy Evans, our first two investors who came on board as executive producers. Without their funding, this film would not have happened. And of course, I'm appreciative to all our investors and everyone on the cast and crew. But those people in particular, this film could not have been done without.
What do you look for in a script?
I look for the way the script makes me feel. And of course, I've normally been the writer or co-writer on my scripts, so I'm probably harder on myself than I would be on someone else's script. And I know that it has to be right before I will claim it to be the final draft. It has to be structured properly, characters have to be balanced, the story has to move forward, there can't be the sagging middle there. So I'm completely OCD about how I want my script to be before we go into the field to produce.
How do you select the director?
The director for Skookum, The Hunt for Bigfoot, and for Dreamers and Gamblers, Spirit of the Pioneer Wildcatters were people that I had confidence in. I knew their work ethic was amazing, and they were also people I very much liked to be around and were easy to work with. It can become a living horror story in and of itself if you end up with people on set who don't have your vision, who will not do anything but their own way or the highway. I simply can't work with people like that, so I am very, very selective about who I bring on as director if I'm not directing the project myself.
What checks and balances do you make when managing budgets?
Oh, I'm absolutely all about asking. I'm not afraid to ask people, so I will ask people for anything, and in return they can have their name on film, or they can have part ownership in the film, just to save on the budget, because I like to reserve funding for our primary players on the film, especially when we make films over and over again, like we do one at least once a year. our core team, because I don't like to keep asking people to donate that much time out of their lives and not get paid. So I like to reserve most of the budget for our players. I like to try to get locations for free. In turn, like if it's a restaurant, give people credit on the film to promote their business and that kind of thing. And a lot of people just like their name on a film. They like to see those end credits with their name rolling by. It's a thrill to them. So if they simply throw in a batch of paper towels or water or any kind of contribution to see their name on a film, it's all worth it, and that saves every penny on the budget, so you can spend the budget on the big things.
Have you ever had to handle a difficult conflict in your career?
Oh, absolutely. And like we talked about, we had to change cinematographers in the middle of filming Skookum, The Hunt for Bigfoot, because the original cinematographer we were just not able to work with on the same page. So that conflict was not one that was resolvable, and we had to move on. So I think, as the old saying goes, you have to know when to fold them and when to hold them.
What would you change in a movie you produced that you believe would make it better?
I believe that in Skookum, The Hunt for Bigfoot, we really didn't have a proper shot list, and it would have saved much time and money if we had actually done that in advance. If we'd had a good shot list, very detailed shot list, with along with a storyboard, I think it would have helped streamline the production process, and we wouldn't have had to go back during post-production and do pickup shots, because that's time and that's money, and it's very difficult to match everything, actors, clothes, those kinds of details. It's difficult to match that, and it's like making another movie all over again. So a shot list and storyboarding and preparation in advance would have saved a lot of grief in post.